What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 59 of Clips and Dip. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Oslin and Will Updike. We have a very fun show for you today. We're going to be talking Clippers. We're going to be... Oh, is this because of the Otto Porter news? Are you so sad now that your non-playoff eligible king will no longer play basketball? We're talking Clippers versus Timberwolves. We got the high five ready for you to start the show off. We're going to get into the Clippers, not very new, but maybe new issue dependency on James Harden. The San Diego Clippers are back, and PJ Tucker continues to lead by example for the young guys. We're coming off. Welcome to all the new listeners. Welcome to all the new viewers on YouTube. We're coming off a weird loss to the Bucks. Before we get into all the basketball stuff, Adam, Will, how are you fellas doing on this balmy, what day is it? Monday evening in Los Angeles.
We split the brunch, the brunch back to back. So, I mean, isn't that what, like, I feel like that was my most optimistic want. So I can't be too bummed out on it.
That's fair. Adam, you had to deal with the callers.
No, split the doubleheader. I mean, that's pretty impressive. 2 games in less than 24 hours, and the Clippers were able to get a split there, even without Kawhi and Paul George. Yesterday, they fought as well in that game against the Bucks.
It was good to see. It was more of the same, like taking the regular season seriously, right? Like we kind of assumed they would maybe drop that game, but they didn't play like they thought they were going to.
They didn't plan. They didn't play like they were planning on dropping it.
Have some faith, Chuck. Have some damn faith. All right.
There was some good stuff in that game. We're going to talk. Bones obviously getting a little bit better. Paul George and Kawhi were held out of that game. They are questionable for Clippers versus Timberwolves, but as Law Murray said on Twitter, standard procedure from a team after a player missed the previous game. Expect both to play for a chance at the regular season series. So that's good. Nothing to really freak out there. Adam, I believe you have 5 clips that we need to get into and how this could pertain to the Clippers hopefully beating the Minnesota Timberwolves, who will be without Karl-Anthony Towns.
We got a new high five here for everyone. It's our new segment here on Clips and Dip, which people seem to enjoy, which I'm kind of shocked by. So I guess we'll keep it going here. 5 clips from that Bucks game from yesterday, starting with a little pick and roll coverage here. We knew when Damian Lillard came over to the Milwaukee Bucks, all the high-level NBA thinkers were like, how do you stop the pick and roll with those two? What do you do against these two guys? It's going to be devastating. They're going to destroy the league. And while it hasn't exactly materialized to that level yet, it's getting there. It's getting closer. They've done some good things with Doc Rivers defensively, and offensively here, you're going to see a little pick and roll action. Hey, I just screwed myself up there.
Oh, no. We apologize to all the YouTube
I pressed the space bar, which apparently is not okay.
New technology, new issues.
Hands all over. New technology, new issues. All right, here we go. Giannis Antetokounmpo. You guys seeing what I'm seeing? He's about to set the pick here on Amir Coffey, who they put on Dame, who started to torch the Clippers in that fourth quarter, ended up with 16 points in the fourth quarter alone. Mason Plumlee is in the ball game, though. This is still early third because it was Ivica Zubac picking up 2 fouls within the first, minute and a half of that third quarter, picked up his 4th there. He had to go out of the ball game. So it's Mason Plumlee instead of Ivica Zubac. More on Big Zoo coming up here. But Giannis Antetokounmpo comes up to set the pick. Now, this is what's called at the level or up on the touch, you could say. I think that's the Clippers terminology for it, where he doesn't just go into a deep drop here. He doesn't just back off of Damian Lillard because, well, that could be an issue. He's a great 3-point shooter. You don't want to give him that open shot. You don't want him to just roll into it coming off that screen from Giannis either. So Mason Plumlee was there. The problem was it created this pocket here where he finds Giannis on the bounce pass, and neither Plum or Amir Coffey had a handout to try to stop it. Granted, it's not easy, but it has to be just a little bit more sound than that. And the Clippers just defensively here. Amir Coffey goes around it, goes a little bit too wide on Giannis. He's got to get a handout.
I mean, you got to kill the sound on this.
Can you kill the sound on the clip real quick?
Oh, the sound is on?
Yeah.
My bad, guys.
Like I was there.
I just wanted to hear Brian Seaman there. Uh, I'm not hearing it on my end, so sorry for the technical difficulties. Giannis Antetokounmpo now has the basketball. Now, someone could tag and pick up for Mason Plumlee here, and that just means to help out and to get his man Giannis Antetokounmpo. The problem is Brook Lopez is waiting right here. They got the Clippers spread out. They got 3-pointers on both sides. So what are you going to do? Just pick your poison. It's Giannis going left around James Harden for the easy one. If he tries to step up and stop it, that's just going to end up with a lob to Brook Lopez. In our second clip, we got Brandon
So
Boston.
what should they have done there? Like what?
Neither
What should
Amira
they have done
Coffee
differently?
or Mason Plumlee reacted fast enough or were connected enough there to have a handout to just try to stop that Goldilocks scenario where you can't be too high and can't be too low for that pocket pass to be that easy from Damian Lillard to hit Giannis Antetokounmpo. They didn't even get a hand out in time. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's why teams run this stuff all the time. But that would have been the perfect way to defend it, the Goldilocks scenario of stopping the pick and roll. Here's Norman Powell here getting a little floater to go and the and one call. But now we're coming to Brandon Boston. Now, this is what you see from young rookies. In the same possession here, you get the good and the bad. And he played some really good defense at times, believe it or not, on Damian Lillard. You're going to see that here where he kind of funnels him towards the help defense and then swats the ball away. The problem is Dame comes back up with it, gives it out to Beasley. Now, we talked about Beasley in the last contest, and what does he like to do? Pump fake and relocate and get his man in the air. He did that to Terrence Mann at the end of the third quarter in the first game in the last week against the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee. And now he's going to get Brandon Boston with the same thing. He goes and just overreacts a little bit here as he recovers defensively, but he's going to leap into the air. Oh, ball's on the floor now. Relocate. Beasley, wide open three-pointer. You like the aggressiveness from Brandon Boston there, and he made a nice play earlier on Damian Lillard, but he's just got to stay down defensively because you shouldn't be so worried about Beasley just flying by you. That's really not his game. He got exactly what he wanted out of that possession. Now, how about Big Zoo here with some nice defense in this ball game? As I thought overall, Ivica Zubac, man, he played over the weekend really in both games. This is kind of what we were looking at, right, guys? Talking about Big Zoo and what he could mean to this team if he's starting to look healthy again, which he is. So here's a little defense from Ivica Zubac. As we first see Giannis just knock down a jumper, there's nothing you can do about that. If he's hitting long twos and it was still well defended, you're kind of just screwed. So they're going back to the pick and roll now on the left wing. Amir Coffey and Ivica Zubac this time defending with him instead of Mason Plumlee. Here's Damian Lillard. Giannis kind of just gives a half ghost screen to Amir Coffey, but watch what Ivica Zubac does. It's not deep drop, but what you want in drop is to keep the ball handler in front of you and the roller. That's when you're elite at something. Look at Zoo. He does just that to the point where Amir Coffey can recover on the play. Look at Zoo. Look at Zoo. Look at Zoo. James Harden comes over, tags a little bit. Now Amir Coffey's back with Damian Lillard. Now the problem here is it's Dame Dawa. It's a Hall of Famer. And he still gets this tough shot to go on the left baseline. But Ivica Zubac there played that about as well as you can. This is what we're talking about. This is a game changer for this team. This is why he can be the fourth most important player at worst. In our next
more mobile,
much more mobile
than we've seen him since he's been back too. Like backpedaling to stay in front of Dame is, I mean, that's good news.
And he looks goofy when he's doing it, but it's what he's supposed to be doing, which is the issue I think with a lot of people have with Zoo. He's a very goofy looking guy, like his body language, but he's doing it perfectly right there.
Elite defender for this Clippers team. Now we get Zoo and Harden on the attack here on the other end. We're going to see them run a pick and roll that gets iced, as they call it. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo getting in front of it and forcing James Harden towards the baseline. People say that this was developed, this strategy, to take away more options by forcing him towards the baseline by Doc Rivers. Obviously, he's now the head coach with the Milwaukee Bucks here. So he gives him the crossover, which is a nice move there because he saw it coming, James Harden on Giannis. But now he's got to worry about Brook Lopez. And now they have him trapped, basically on the left block. And this is when you have that advantage of having that crafty, big playmaking guard, because how is James Harden going to get out of this? The roller came with him in Ivica Zubac, but you got two of the better defenders in the league trapping him. Well, he just throws a little over-the-shoulder pass to Ivica Zubac. It's beautiful. And Zoo, as the game that he was having, gets the easy push shot to go. One more for you here in the high five. This is one last shot at trying to stop Damian Lillard and throwing a different wrinkle at him as they literally went kitchen sink because he had 16 points in the fourth quarter here. Now the Clippers just say, F it. We'll trap him. We'll live with the results. The problem here is Zoo and Powell aren't nearly connected enough. Powell's just a smaller defender. He gets the easy overhand pass back to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now you'll watch, it's Terrence Mann who comes up to tag Giannis. The right move there. Zoo has a chance to get back, but watch what happens here with Norman Powell and Damian Lillard. Dame gives him a little double back, where all of a sudden he comes flying back towards Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Norm doesn't see it coming. He's a little bit of a step slow. He rushes towards him. Now he says a screen on Powell, just a little dribble handoff pass to Damian Lillard, and he gets a shot over the top of Terrence Mann. It's just, there's not a lot you could do about that, but Norm was a little late to react. You could say that was a bit of an issue. The Clippers tried. This is what happens against teams with Hall of Famers like this. It's brutal. It's tough sometimes. But the Clippers did what they could, and I still think there was some progress there. Some good, some bad. Brandon Boston had his moments. Ivica Zubac was really good at times defensively. They are, I want to say, trending the right way now.
Starting to. I agree. I think they're starting to a little bit. I thought Brandon Boston in this game he's still so young. He had the great dunk, gets teed up for it, right? Like he has the defensive play. It's these things that he still needs to put those together a little bit, but it was encouraging from him too. How are we feeling going into Minnesota? No Cat. You know, they are kind of on the upswing. Will, how are you feeling heading into this? Did anything from the high five encourage you or discourage you before tomorrow's game?
I mean, it's got to be Zoo, right? Like Zoo at full health against this team. I think that's major, regardless of how we end up closing this one out or the amount of small ball that we use. A strong showing from Zoo on both ends of the floor is going to be able to keep this team going. And I'm right there with Law Murray. I'm assuming that we're still going to see Paul George and Kawhi, despite them being listed as questionable. But if not, obviously, then Zoo and which we're going to talk about later. But the all important Harden also looms heavy. That performance over this one.
The all important Harden. Adam, what are you taking from your own high five, which keep getting better and better, for tomorrow's game against the Wolves?
I'm a dumbass. I couldn't hear that the sound was on. My bad, guys. I'll make sure to change that in the future here.
Adam's over here just high-fiving himself.
Ivica Zubac is kind of the revelation going on with this Clippers team right now, just getting him back to the place that he was, and therefore him and James Harden working the pick and roll like we used to see. What I want is to see them get back to the Powell Rangers late in the ball game. Now that they have these guys available again, I don't think we've been able to see that once against Minnesota so far. Zoo was out the first game. The second game, he was on a minutes restriction.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up getting the win the third game, but there were a lot of things in that game that I don't want to say it was a discouraging win as opposed to an encouraging loss. But some of that stuff isn't repeatable. When you get out rebounded by, I think, almost 15 boards in that ball game, 95% of the time you're likely going to lose. The Clippers got enough stops. They did. And Minnesota's now without Karl Anthony Towns too. But in some ways, I don't want to say they're better without Towns, but I do think they have a little bit of a different wrinkle to them with Naz Reid getting more playing time, who also I think was 0 for 7 against the Clippers in that game. Don't expect that to happen again. He's too good. So new issues from Minnesota, plus they just lost to the Lakers, just like the Bucks lost to the Lakers before the Clippers had to play the Bucks.
And Gobert was out. Gobert was out with a hammy versus the Lakers, which is something to maybe keep an eye on. I'm not sure if it's
if they don't have Gobert, obviously that changes a lot for this Clippers team. That is obviously the defensive anchor and one of the best over the last 25 years in the league.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing so well right now that I hope Gobert can go because I want to see Zoo versus Gobert, kind of at Zoo's trajectory right now. But this is a note that I feel like we put in every single preview that involves a game against Mike Conley, which is put Mike Conley in motion on defense. Like, let's do it.
Their problem has been when you're hunting Mike Conley, they bring help pretty soon. Minnesota sees it, they sniff it out. You got to make a quicker decision once you get that mismatch. Go at him, take the shot, or if you're going to wait for the double team, the Clippers have to be better executing out of that.
Yeah, I like that you highlighted that Harden shot too, because I feel like with his size and Zoo's range, that can help in those scenarios where we do wait for the double to come or things are just going a little slow.
Yeah, and Zoo's extended range kind of helps mitigate some of the issues Harden's had in there with his floaters. Obviously, they're from further distances, but they are seemingly getting like closer.
They bridge the gap.
yeah, which hey, I love it.
The fact that Zoo is back and we thought, okay, 2 days off, maybe the illness can pass through him, and he looked great in both games. What?
That phrase
it sounds like you think he had diarrhea.
I was thinking it sounds so biblical and like intense, like the illness has passed through me.
The angel of death passed over. No, he looked like a completely different player than what we had seen over the last month. He got back to where he was very quickly too. And I'm hoping after what happened against the Bucks, especially because what did he miss? Like 2 shots? Was he 9 of 11 or something like that?
Yeah.
Guys, you have to exploit Ivica Zubac and his offense. He is a weapon on that end. You don't have to make things so difficult where it's just the 2-1-3 and James Harden show. Ivica Zubac is another way to win ball games. It's another dimension and element to your offense. You have to use him, especially against teams that have good defenders, because when he's leaning on guys, when he's getting the leaner to go, when he's getting push shots and floaters and being physical in the paint like that, that wears a team down. That has a cumulative effect as the game goes on. It's almost like a running back only getting a couple of yards in the first half, and then eventually he starts to break through in that second half because the defense is a little bit more worn down. Ivica Zubac's plays are physical. They're taxing. They take something out of the defense. So you see the array of shots that he has hit over the weekend. It's like, how do you not get him the basketball a little bit more?
Well, and inversely, it makes things easier for the Clippers offense. Like so often, I feel like we're actively searching for one of the harder shots on the floor, or that's just what it ends up being if we're slow to get into the offense. And it's just a little bit easier. Like I don't want to say you can take a breather, but it's like, if you have somebody else take some of that burden of off the high usage of Harden and Kawhi and Paul George. I just don't like it. Just seems like a no-brainer to me, I guess.
It's that weird thing with Zoo's like leash length, right? Like even when he's being efficient offensively, it just kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
It just seemed like they finally got to the point. I kept saying he's a made man. He's being accepted as one of the most important guys on this team because he was playing late. He was playing big minutes later in ball games, and they were running the Power Rangers out there. And it just seemed like when they were in that groove, when they went 26-5 or whatever it was during a 31-game stretch, Ivica Zubac was a huge part of that. And finally, he was, I don't know, who was being looked at as a real force offensively. But like Will said, okay, so if you get into your offense slowly, it becomes a problem for this team. We know what the numbers are in the first 12 seconds of the shot clock versus the last 12 seconds. Like if it comes down to that, the bailout and security blanket sometimes can just be get it to Ivica Zubac. He's
have the grenade be a Zoo instead of instead of some of the other options on the floor, instead of a really difficult contested mid-range shot. Like what if Zoo is the grenade, the grenade once the pin is pulled?
I like that. Yeah, I like the visual of that too. It's going to be interesting to see how many shots Anthony Edwards puts up in this game. He put up 20 the last time the Clippers played. I think he's going to be north of that with no Karl Anthony Towns.
He is currently listed as questionable, but I assume he will play. Yeah. So the Timberwolves report, which just came out about 45 minutes ago, has Edwards, Gobert, Morris and Anderson all listed as questionable.
Interesting.
With Towns obviously out.
Everybody's questionable this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Everybody. It's the Bill Belichick injury report.
Right. Bench wise, Daniel Tice was plus 14 versus the Wolves last time. He had a.
You should start.
He had a horrific.
Throw out everything we said thus far in the podcast.
Yeah,
let's actually go
wait,
with
what?
in the start.
Oh, he should start.
Yeah. Daniel Tice plus 14 with only 4 points. He had 13 boards. 4 of those were offensive rebounds. We're going to need a similar rebounding game from him, depending what his timing rotation or his time looks in this one. Because he was helpful off the bench versus the Wolves last time.
And how about the way the Clippers rebounded yesterday? Just knowing that, we're undermanned, we're shorthanded, we have to find a way to compete in this ball game. They get off to a much better start than they really have over the last month. They freaking won the first quarter against the Bucks by 3 points, I believe it was. And they ended up out rebounding them 52-41 and 17-7 on offensive rebounds. When you think about it, is it so much about personnel? Or is it more about activity, energy, effort, sense of urgency, intensity? Maybe that makes up for a lot of what we've thought is a weakness on this team alone.
That felt like you're about to pull out a big PJ Tucker poster, as you were saying. Put it up behind you.
Exemplifies all these things.
I'm feeling pretty as good as you can realistically feel about the Clippers going into this game right now. It's not going to be a beatdown. Obviously, it's going to be a difficult game. But what we saw from Zoo had me pretty hyped up. And with our big three playing, we are going to talk about Harden next segment. I'm feeling okay about this one.
I feel good about it too, honestly. If Will also feels good about it, though, they might lose by 20.
I don't know. I guess my one caveat would be is this the trap of where I feel like many times this season when the Clippers have had a chance to prove something against an opponent above the standings, sometimes we get a real poop the bed performance.
A real kick in the neck. Who was your Kawhi Leonard player of the game pick?
Ivica Zubac.
Great pick. Adam? No explanation needed. Adam?
I will go with
Terrence Mann. Good pick. All right, let's go.
No, I like Mann, but I'm going to go with Paul George because he has struggled in 3 games against Minnesota so far. He really is their ceiling raiser. Paul George plays well. You feel like this Clippers team is unbeatable at times. When he's playing well, everything else seems to fall into place. And 4 of the last 5 games, he's been much better. Though that one is the last time out against Minnesota. They won anyways in a low-scoring affair.
No cat though, so he won't have to. He won't upset his friend. He doesn't have to worry about. Yeah, he doesn't have to feel bad about playing good.
That's
he played good defense on Cat.
He's been feeling good about playing bad in this matchup.
I was gonna go James Harden because he was 0 for 10 the last time these two teams played, but I don't think we can pick 3 starters. So I'm gonna go with the guy who made 6 out of 8 threes the last time we beat the Timberwolves, which is Norm Powell.
Hell yeah.
Norm Powell, we're gonna need not a season high, but maybe close to it, like we got from him against the Bucks. I'm going Big Norm for my Kawhi Leonard player of the game.
That's a good call, especially because he was 3 of 14 from 3 yesterday. Now, I think a lot of that, you look at the 3-point shooting from the Clippers under 30%, I believe, by the end of the game. It's like, tired legs. Like, that's what happens. And overall, this team has not been shooting it well from 3, as we have chronicled here for some time since the Grammy road trip. They've been shooting 34% from the outside. And I looked this up earlier today, put it at Follow Adam A on X. But over their last 13 games, they are shooting 31% on wide open threes. That is a defender 6+ feet away. That is completely unsustainable. That's last in the league over that stretch. They are so due to explode, not just for a game, but for a week, a couple weeks. They're too good.
They're too good. I like that sentiment.
They're due
Coming
to
up,
explode.
I like that they're too good.
In a good way.
Coming up after this quick break, we're talking the final 10 games in March after the Wolves game and how hopefully the Clippers can maybe get James Harden some kind of rest, if that even is possible. What does that look like? But if you're listening to this pod, the ads have been loud for some people. If that's been the case for you, go ahead and turn it down. We got March schedule talk and the James Harden dependency coming up in 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back into Clips and Dip. We talked a little bit about the Clippers taking on the Timberwolves, which brings us to this point in March. Only 10 games remaining after this Timberwolves game. So far, 3-1. Looking okay. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess one of the more. For me, a little unexpected, but one of the kind of storylines going on right now is sort of Iron Man James Harden. And can we expect this to keep up? If so, what are those implications for the playoffs, where he, has generally had his most trouble? And what can we do to make it any easier?
It's really crazy. It's kind of crazy to me he didn't take or get that last game off. He hasn't missed the game as a Clipper. He's on pace to play his most minutes since 18-19. And then there was a stat from Law Murray who said overall the Clippers outscored teams 6.2 points per 100 possessions with James Harden on the floor since January 22nd. But here are the off-court net ratings for the Clippers since that time, up until March 9th. Kawhi Leonard off the floor for the Clippers, minus 0.3. Paul George off the floor for the Clippers, minus 3.6. James Harden off the floor for the Clippers, minus 9.1, which is a pretty big drop. We know that James Harden is very good. We've obviously needed him to be this good. He's a great player. He is a system. But Adam, how are we feeling about this? This is a lot of minutes to go on to James Harden. I'm assuming he wants this because, again, I think they probably asked him, maybe, do you want to maybe take Sunday off? And he said no. Where are you at? Are we okay with this? Is this alarmist? Is it just because I got March head?
I'm not that surprised by it because on the season, up until recently, he had the biggest swing in the on-off numbers. He is extremely valuable. He is a system. Their offensive rating is completely different with him off the floor. On the court, they have an offensive rating of 122, basically, when he's on there. When James Harden is off the court, it's 109. We're talking about going from historic to bottom in the league. So it's not that shocking to me. What is kind of Kawhi Leonard's not being as impactful right now. Paul George is still being impactful. In fact, on the season now, he has the biggest net rating differential over James Harden, Paul George. So when he's playing well, it means a lot to this team when he's on the court out there. I just think it's such a bad stretch right now to try to extrapolate too much out of the numbers. It basically just says they are playing bad. Like all the numbers are saying they're playing poorly. They are playing mediocre basketball. Somebody got after me with showing the starting lineup numbers since the Grammy road trip. They've been bad too, really bad. I mean, they're 7-7 last 14 games post Grammy road trip.
Due for that explosion, though.
They're more than due. Overdue, some would say.
Overdue. Blocked, stopped up. Do you think there's a way to are they going to even try and because I'm trying to figure out, are they going to try and get him rest, but we need wins, right? Like, it's not like we're in a position where he can chill. The Clippers, they got 10 games left in March. Bulls, Pels, Hawks. That's a 4-6. They play the Blazers twice. 76ers, Pacers, 76ers. That's another 4-6. And then Magic and Charlotte. I got to imagine one of these back-to-backs he's getting rest. Both those back-to-backs are 4 games in 6 days. I would maybe want him to take one of those off. Just, I don't know. It's a whole mess of basketball to be playing. Because we know PG and Kawhi are going to maybe take one of those off.
I think the problem with yesterday and why he played was if you already are without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, what's your identity? You only have one other point guard in Bones Highland because there's no Russ right now. So they kind of had to play James Harden to an extent, I think, just to have some flow to their offense against a really good Milwaukee Bucks team, and it almost worked. Even though he had an off night shooting, he was still the system out there, a system for the team. So it's got to come on a night where I think at least one of 2-1-3 is playing when you give James Harden that night off.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Will, what do you want to see? Are you fine with him just powering through? I mean, again, it seems like they're just letting him call it himself, which is good. And he wants to play. But is there a point you might get worried pre-playoffs?
I just think it depends.
As we don't, usually get worried.
I just think it depends on how he's looking and moving. I mean, is the off shooting like due to some of this, some of this sustained workload that has increased? If so, it's so tough because you have to get through March. But like if that seems to be the issue, like if his accuracy and stuff is still kind of tailing off, then I would say, yeah, maybe rest a couple of games. We'll have to see what these back-to-backs look like in terms of how desperate the Clippers are going to be to stack up wins. And, with this team likely in the 4-5 matchup in the first round, I mean, like maybe we move up to 3. I'm curious to see like how hard they go after that, because it's never really been the priority, I feel like, in the 2-1-3 era, right? So I don't think that this team I don't think that this team is going to suddenly, prioritize even wins if it's going to come at the expense of the longevity of one of the most integral players. So I mean, I know this isn't a great answer, but yeah, it's mostly a wait and see. Should he? I mean, I feel like it's well deserved some rest. But yeah, you just have to balance. You just have to balance those wins, and if you can still get some process done, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I feel like I feel like outside of obviously wins and the seeding is important, but if we're not laying down sort of foundational stuff or expanding upon that kind of stuff in game, I mean, other than just getting the dub, like, is there really that much of a point to playing to playing a starter?
I know what you mean, because the process is what I was, I mentioned that's really what I'm looking for this tail end of the month is the process. And the back end of these 10 games left, you have some easier games in there, I guess. The Blazers are at the front of it. But like the Charlotte game, yeah, and Bones stepping up has a lot to do with this too, right? Like what you said, Adam, they're not sitting him because who else is the backup point guard other than Bones, who just started playing meaningful basketball again. He's definitely not ready to start the game as a point guard for the Clippers.
Man back at the point.
He loved that.
Yeah. I don't think it would be that detrimental if you had Bones in the starting lineup if he's next to Kawhi or Paul George. It's just if he's all by himself and you're resting the big three, yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I hope Bones' minutes maybe go up, but I think Ty's in a weird place because I can't, before the Russ injury, I don't think Bones was going to be a playoff guy, right? Like it just wasn't trending that way. We might have wanted it, but it just wasn't trending that way. So now it Ty's kind of in this weird spot where it's like, do you just keep giving Bones more minutes because he's playing well? And does that maybe affect the playoff rotation if Russ comes back early?
It should.
Feels like we're hearing that a lot. Like, we're getting kind of chatter, all these little news pieces about Russ that it's like he might be back before the playoffs or something like that. But I agree, Adam. He totally should.
Well, he offers a completely different dimension. Like I said before, if he's hitting threes, I don't think you can keep him out because it's just a different type of offense out there, especially if teams in a playoff series, I didn't necessarily say that, but in a playoff series, they're going to scheme even more against your weaknesses, and they're going to play off Russ even more in every possession that the ball is not in his hands. You're going to be playing 4-on-5 on offense even more. Now, there's other stuff that Russ brings, of course, the rebounding. He's a better defender, but guys, Bones Highland's defense has been very solid now, going back to last year when he came in with the Clippers. That whole he's a sieve defensively, and he's such a liability there, and he can't stay on the floor because of his defense. I think we have to drop kick that out of here because he's been more than holding his own.
Kick it out of here.
Yeah. Like the Jack Black scene in Anchorman where he says, "That's how I roll." He drop kicks the dog. He's been doing his part. And you look at what's happened over the last week is we saw a game against the Rockets where Bones gets to the basket. He's turning the corner and showing off his speed there.
4
quickness.
seconds. What was that? Something crazy like that? Like, that was nuts.
Yeah, the Tyus Edney play at the end of the first quarter. Then the next game against the Chicago Bulls, we see Bones Highland go, 3 of 3 from distance? And then this last game, he puts it all together where he got to the basket and he hit a three-pointer. He was kind of cooking early in that fourth quarter. Did you hear Coach Lou get asked about why he took out Bones post-game? Now, obviously, he took him out because he brought back in James Harden, which was the right move, of course. And Coach Lou was like, yeah, I brought in James. It was kind of a ridiculous question, but I think a lot of people were just feeling the momentum swing, and a part of that was Bones Highland bringing that energy. When he knocked down that big three-pointer, I think it was over Bobby Portis, people were saying like, oh, Bones Highland's running back the other way. He's getting into it with the crowd. There were some good feelings there between a player that's electric and just brings, a different element.
It's good to see Bones succeed. It's nice to see him. It's got to be a weird situation because he, traded because he wanted more playing time. Got it. Didn't get it. Now back to getting it. Like, talk about an up and down.
And yet he's not being a huge baby about it, like a veteran who has had the exact same kind of scenario.
Should we get into that right now? I know I have it at the end of the outline, but I feel like we should talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's address the 39-year-old baby on the team.
Okay. Do we have anything else to say about the Harden stuff before we discuss PJ Tucker's latest quotable quote?
No.
Nothing. No, we have nothing more to say.
Harden's been good. Give him some
good.
rest.
Give him some rest. End of story. So for those who missed it, PJ Tucker is I don't know what he wants.
He doesn't know what he wants.
So post game, Ty Lue said it might have been tough for PJ Tucker to find a rhythm Sunday. If you watched the game, it was. It's been tough for him to find a rhythm in most games.
I mean, because he sucked?
He did take shots, which was good. He put up 6 shots, which we needed him to do.
Which is unbelievable.
He missed 5 of them.
I thought he was solid.
The rebounds were there. I said post game the rebounds.
I'm just giving him shit.
4 offensive rebounds.
We needed them. They were big.
Good defense on Giannis at times.
Good defense.
And just taking the shots. I'll take the shots.
Yeah.
Taking the shots.
I'm happy if he's taking them.
So hey, maybe a nice little chance for him to shine. He's been wanting more playing time. It's the second time he's been given a second chance. Anyway, Ty said it might be tough. Tucker said tough. Finding out the morning of that you are going to start and play minutes in the first time in 5 months in the NBA. I don't know. There's got to be a better word than tough. Okay, man. What are we doing here? Like, nature of the beast. Like, what are we supposed to do with this guy?
It feels like it's getting.
Time. He doesn't want it. Like, what does he want?
What you just said for the second time, and it's not even the second time. It's been like this. Your mascara's running, Chuck.
Yeah, did a pen explode on me? What the fuck?
You got that Derek Carr brand?
Yeah, it came with My Chemical Romance CD.
Things got emo because we started talking about PJ Tucker and the sadness that it happened after the game. Well, he's kind of defeating himself there because instead of talking about, that was a solid performance from PJ, he showed a few things. Now the narrative has shifted back to, oh, he's unhappy. Is this going to be an issue long term? At some point, do they have to send him home again? Will it be an extended stay?
That would be insane.
And why wouldn't you Ty Lue is commending your performance with that quote. Like, why wouldn't you just be like, yeah, it was a little difficult to step into the starting lineup, but I wish I would have knocked more shots down, but I overall feel like I gave it my all. Like, I
grabbed the boards. I helped the team in the best.
How hard is that?
Yeah,
you started. You got to start. They gave you 25 minutes, and I think for the most part, he was effective and helped. Yeah. I think what really helped him in that game was the fact that the Clippers were playing with such pace. it didn't, and he was taking those shots from the outside. But, if you're stagnant in the half court, that guy who's a non-shooter is embossed, stands out even more. And because they were playing with a nice pace out there, I don't think he was as much of a liability. And he was taking them. After taking 3 shots in his last 100 minutes, he got up how many shots? You got to get 6 threes?
7? Yeah. That's what's crazy is I'm like, dude, like and I said this on the post game too, Adam. Like, it's like great to see him taking the shots, out there. It is tears of a clown. It's good to see him taking the shots, obviously, when we're shorthanded, but take it when we're not shorthanded. Like, he got playing time when we had this version of the full Clippers, and he wasn't taking shots. So it's like, dude, like, yes, you've stayed in shape. Wonderful. Like, you did it. You did the base level thing that you need to do. But, like, now you're also just complaining to the press yet again. It's like, is this the 4th time or like the 4th weird quote that he's just like said out there?
And I would understand it more if someone like maligned his performance or something. To me, that just was not the context. They were asking for clarity on a Ty Lue quote, where Ty Lue also, he wasn't like, he didn't blame anything on you. He didn't,
he spoke well about his performance. I felt like,
yeah, I mean, that was the way I interpreted it. I just don't understand like why you would react in this defensive way when it's like no one was even saying anything negative. We get it, man. It must be hard to be a starter after not playing.
What's
like,
different?
What do you want?
Such a great. I wish. That's like, what else can Ty Lue do other than that? If TJ Tucker's like, oh yeah.
What's different to me though, and the way this is developing now, that could change things, is because he's already been disciplined. He already was sent home, and you're continuing to make a stink,
right?
Unnecessarily, based upon what Ty Lue was saying about his game, and nobody was really criticizing him. Chuck gave him his props for the offensive rebounds. Like,
they should take his freaking Game Boy away.
Yeah,
core memory right there is what that feels like. Well, we hope it gets better, I guess, right? Like, he's
PJ Tucker. It gets better.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. You already sent him home.
Also have to keep him because his $11.5 million cap hit next year is very tradable, right? But if you cut him, it still counts against the cap or some.
Oh, they're not going to cut him. They're just going to send him home permanently, like what happened to John Wall with the Rockets. That's what will happen. That's
crazy.
And he's, I don't know, asking them to by continuing to complain like this. I want PJ Tucker to thrive. I saw enough to be like, okay, he has utility. Like I said, I think in certain situations in the playoffs, he's very playable.
Did he hit you with that 6-second DPOY performance?
If I had that clip to comb over,
that would have been.
Still be going through the high five right now.
That would have been most of the
sound on.
Fully blasted. And it's all right. Last thing, and then we'll go to the next segment, which has one fun thing. How is this making him look to the contenders he supposedly wants to go play for?
Oh, that's a great point. I mean, like, no one wants this guy, and maybe
he's not even a backup.
Yeah, and I'm sure like maybe other teams aren't that tuned in with Clippers media or whatever, but I agree with you. That's a great point. It's just not a good look.
Like, hey, do you want to come be our third string 4? And he's like, no, I want to be your backup 4.
We've all heard that, athletes and their lifespan in the sport and how difficult it is to see your athletic mortality start to come to an end and dealing with all that. Now we're seeing it happen like in real time. Like there's a little bit, it almost feels like somewhat denial here.
It's
like,
sad.
You're the second oldest player in the league. You can definitely still help this team, but it's going to be situational. And that just has to be what it is right now. There's no offseason coming right now for them to make a move where all of a sudden now it's an expiring contract and it's a little bit more applicable.
And he's functionally the oldest player in the league. LeBron spent all that money on research and recovery.
Right.
PJ just spent it on shoes.
Yeah, LeBron doesn't count to me. Like, I know he is the oldest player, but he's LeBron. So it's like, okay, yeah, like the oldest real player in the NBA is PJ Tucker.
I don't
Coolest
want him.
hooper in the league, if you will.
The first hooper.
I guess the reason that this concerns me is I think at some point they could very well need him. So I don't want to see him not on the bench, not staying ready for this team, not staying ready for this team. I think he still can help, but the attitude issue right now is becoming more into the forefront of what we think of when we're talking about PJ Tucker instead of his play.
And this is a player that I've liked for a really long time. Like I'm not like psyched on this. It's just getting ridiculous. It continues to be ridiculous.
I hope if he has a good game, he just gives an "I told you so" speech after the game. Because
everyone douded me. Everyone on this team doubted me. Everyone in the media doubted me.
Just go with it, dude. Yeah, just be like, no one thought I could do it, huh? 4, 4, and 3, like something like that. All right, coming up, we're going to talk a fun thing, and then we're going to send everyone on their merry way. We're talking the Clippers, the Ontario Clippers rebrand, which is pretty sick. Coming up after some maybe loud ads. If that's been the case for you, go ahead and turn it down. We got ads coming up, and then SD Clippers stuff in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, hope those ads weren't any louder than me leaving the sound on during the high five film breakdown earlier. For some reason, I couldn't hear it in my ears, but everybody else could. My bad, guys. Won't happen again. Welcome back in. It's season 2, episode 59 of Clips and Dip. We got Chuck Mockler, Will Updike. Chuck came on with me yesterday for a little Clips and Double Dip. If you don't know what that means, well, on Clippers Talk, the official postgame show for your Los Angeles Clippers, we take calls and we also have guests, and these guys are staples when it comes to coming on with me postgame after a win or a loss. I tried to get a hold of Will, but the Clippers lost that game to the Bucks, so I got sent a voicemail, and
I apologize. I missed it. I was getting ready for the Oscars.
It's all good. I mean, what a way to give out the best picture than the way Al Pacino.
Dude, that was so great.
It was perfect.
Okay.
It was perfect. I wish they would have rolled credits. They shouldn't have even been able to do a speech. They should have just rolled credits right after.
You want things to move faster at the Oscars? Don't even tell what the nominees are. Just go straight to the award winner. So the Clippers are back in San Diego. Not this Clippers team, but the G League team that's been playing in Ontario. And sometimes they have early games at crypto.com arena, I believe. But kind of cool. Saw the old logo that we haven't seen in a while. And Norman Powell was there today for the unveiling of it, talked about it, said, yeah, he'll be there for games, obviously, San Diego guy. Kawhi Leonard will be there for games, supporting the team as well. Just cool to see guys invested in the G League, formerly the D-League team for the Clippers. And they got some nice merch, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the redo is sweet. Like, I'd be hyped if I lived in San Diego.
How does that work for the two-way guys? Like, commute-wise?
3-way contract.
3-way.
Wait, what do you mean commute-wise?
You gotta go from San Diego to LA?
Oh, yeah. You think they put him on a flight?
I don't know.
I mean,
I guess Kawhi. Can you carpool with Kawhi or?
Kawhi's like getting the extra.
Kawhi's used a helicopter. I'm sure if they needed a guy that night, all of a sudden,
I don't want people using helicopters.
I'm pro helicopter. I wish they used 2 helicopters.
Seems unsafe.
Hang a hammock in between 2 of them. They could just chill on the way there. How long's the helicopter ride?
Doesn't it seem the crash rate is way higher with helicopters than other forms of air travel?
I can't think of too many other forms of air travel other than helicopter and plane. So
yeah,
you got me there.
I think there's more helicopter crashes than plane crashes.
Yeah, that's true. The San Diego Clips stuff too, I think, makes it even cooler the Clippers didn't rebrand. I myself was thinking maybe they would rebrand. They had some funny language in that press conference talking about the new logo and stuff, where they used the phrase people were violently opposed in their surveys to the Clippers rebranding, which I think that some people might have been. I don't know if that was the whole, but seeing this happen and how it all ties with the new, like the Clippers name, it's really cool to see everything kind of be the Clippers still.
Who was opposed to the rebrand?
I don't know.
Huh. All right.
No,
Zillion.
They meant a name change, right?
Yeah, like a total.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
like a complete, like a teardown.
I didn't want to see that either. Like if that was going to
Yeah.
happen, it could have happened when Ballmer initially came in, maybe. But at this
That would have
point, it
been the
just
time
feels
to do
like,
it. Yeah.
wouldn't it be cool to see this team, name the Clippers, reach the top of the mountain at some point? That's the turnaround you want to see.
And you couldn't do it like we're already
Like mid-season to show what the new team's going to be next
well,
year.
and we're this deep into the like Kawhi and Paul George run. I mean, they came to the Clippers. They started as Clippers. Like I feel like it'd be really weird. I feel like
And
that'd be really weird.
Clippers fans, like when you are a lovable loser for some time, as they were, they had the worst owner in sports. Nobody loved that. But the fans, who were a glutton for punishment and went through those tough years,
Still are.
like they want to be rewarded with the Clippers winning it all. So I think it makes sense to keep the team name, the original team name. And I like it. And I'm glad they're showing off the ship now because so many people for so long were asking, what is it? It's cool. It's a Clipper ship.
What would you rebrand the team if you had to rebrand the team, Adam?
Well, I was going to go back to Will's old Nick Batum joke when they played the Knicks. Playing his team, he had to hit that shot. He's no longer on the Clippers. I don't want to go down that road because the name's perfect.
I don't even want to think about it. Will, do you have any ideas off top?
The Seamen.
Great. Keep most of the logos. Just change the words.
They're not Clippers anymore. They're Seamen.
Seamen.
And you can interpret that however you want. It could be a person who works on a ship or it's like a merman kind of a situation.
Or your voice of the Clippers, Brian Seaman.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Brian gets some equity.
Or just Brian Siemens' face on the jersey.
Yeah, that would be great. The LA Brian Siemens. That would be awesome.
That's like the Steve-O back tattoo of himself.
Yeah. Dude, yes. Oh, that's a good time. All right. Anything else before we wrap up and get maybe way too excited for this Clippers Wolves game?
Nah, I'm getting hungry. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
Will's hungry, so we have to go.
Clippers basketball.
So we're gonna have a double dip after tomorrow's game versus the Wolves. Hopefully, it's a win, so Will can go on. A back-to-back preview for y'all on Wednesday night, because believe it or not, the Clippers still have a couple of those. Will, if these people want to review or subscribe, where could they possibly do that? Why should they do that?
So if you listen to this show on audio platforms, you can get that wherever you get your podcast. If you want to leave a rating or review, you can do that over on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. If you watch the show on YouTube, you can subscribe over there. It's youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. You could essentially review every single episode. You could leave a comment on every single episode, good or bad. Have your voice heard. Be a part of the larger Clips and Dip cinematic universe, if you will. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it.
A couple more films before we got the full universe. Adam, let's get some positivity before Will gets his before Will eats.
You guys aren't hungry? It's like 6:30.
I banged out a big old thing of ramen with an egg right before he came on.
Thought you were working until 5:30. I thought that's why we started at this time.
Let's pull back the curtain now, boys.
we were supposed to start at 5:30. That was the original time.
So I'm going to say the Clippers picked up a new player over the weekend. His name is Zubac. He's back, baby. Ivica Zubac. Keep your head up. Ivica Zubac is back. Look at these last two games. 16-9 on 7 of 9 shooting, 18-6 on 9 of 11 shooting. I think he only had 6 rebounds because they kept trying to bring him out to the perimeter with the pick and roll like we saw earlier. Ivica Zubac is an absolute freaking game changer for this Clippers team when he is right. He's still only 26. He's still improving. And he's good enough now to be the 4th most important player on this team. If they're going to get to where they need to get to where everybody wants them to get to, Ivica Zubac has to be a big part of it. And I don't know, maybe the right calf injury and then getting sick afterwards gave him even more time to respond to the right calf or to recover from that. So I expect Big Zoo, if they let him, to do some carrying over the last 19 games of this season. He's young. He's fresh, and he gets easy buckets, baby. That's what you need right now.
Young, fresh, and gets easy buckets is an elite bio line for anyone
Young,
who
fresh,
wants to
easy
use it.
buckets would just be a great nickname as well.
Ooh, yeah. All right. Wonderful note to go out on. Adam, thank you so much. Will, thank you so much. Always a great time. We thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. We'll be back with a full video on Wednesday. And as always, let's go Clips.